are four things that make up the human being. That being their gender identity. This is what's between their ears. That's their internal perception of their own gender, that being their maleness, their femaleness, or their non-genderlessness. Their gender expression is the second thing that makes up the human being. That being how they express that gender. That's through the clothes that they wear, the behavior that they have, the roles that they take on, their mannerisms, what have you. That's their gender expression, how they express that gender. Then you have your birth sex, and this is what I like to say is what's between your legs. So when you were born and you came out of your mama's vaginal canal, the doctor looked at you and said, hey, those look to be like some male genitalia. You must be a boy. That's your birth sex. Now, your attraction to, what I like to say is the legs you want to be between. So these are the individuals that you're attracted to, whether or not that's romantically or sexually, what have you. So those four things make up the human being. Everyone has those, and each one of those comes on a spectrum. Your gender identity, for the most part, can be quite male. I know for me, I started off with the female gender identity. Didn't work out for me, so I went into more of the gender queer identity, so kind of like in the middle of the gender spectrum. And then I realized that really doesn't work for me either, so I went a bit more farther into the other side of the gender spectrum and realized that being male worked with who I am, and that's the gender spectrum right there. And my gender expression also went on that gender spectrum. It was quite female, and then quite androgynous, then quite masculine. And then my birth sex, has stayed pretty much the same my whole life, that being female. But if I wanted to, I could go through surgeries and therefore change it to the male birth sex. But also within that birth sex, there's that spectrum. You have your female genitalia, you have your intersex genitalia, and you have your male genitalia. So it's quite a spectrum. And then you also have your attraction too, your romantic attraction, your sexual attraction, and that all comes on a spectrum. You could be quite heterosexual. You could be, heteroflexible, as I like to say. For the most part, you're quite heterosexual, but you're okay to dip your foot into the other pool every once in a while. And you can be whatever sexual identity or sexual term you want to go by. That's a person's own decision to self-identify, and that's attraction to is very much a spectrum as well. I've come out a number of times in my life, and I think at this point in time I'm okay with where I'm sitting, and that being I identify as pansexual, but I'm in a gay relationship right now, and I'm very much comfortable with that. I'm really starting to figure out that this is who I am, and I'm okay with it. But it does come a time, and it's okay to question yourself and to step along that spectrum and find out what works for you.